we go.
People wanna know.
People wanna know
Who we are.
who we are.
We are ELA.
We are ELA.
So yeah, guys, another day, another episode. We're here again. Yes, ELA. Something unique, like I said in the past episode. Anyway, today we've got another amazing guest. Now,
Special guest, man.
this guy's had. I think he's lived some of our lives. To be fair, you know what I mean, he's lived some of our lives. You know what I'm saying. But currently, he's what's it called? He's a sports agent, owner of AG Sports Group. Am I correct?
AGM Sports Agent.
AGM. I was right. AGM Sports. AG. Yeah, is an agent.
And AG Football
And
Academy
AG
as
Football
well. So
Academy.
he was right.
Brilliant,
he was
brilliant,
right.
brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Yes, so we have a special Godfrey. Torto, right? Correct?
Yeah.
I always struggle with the name, the last name, because
Yeah.
it means something else in other countries. Like,
Yeah, so
it's-
it's a fun. It's actually Portuguese.
Oh.
But I think that's obviously back to Portugal, Africa. That starts.
Angola
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that.
Slave
So-
trade. That's. I
Okay.
think that is linked to that. To be honest with you.
Right.
But it's Portuguese and Italian as well. It's quite used in Italy. The name as well.
God has got a twist, man.
Right.
Yeah,
Twist
there's a
and
lot
stuff.
going on.
It's
in
random.
it,
I
yeah.
just asked that question, because every
A
time
lot of
I've
people
seen your
don't,
name,
when they hear the name
Torto,
Torto,
I'm like,
they don't
Torto.
necessarily think it's from Ghana. But
Don't forget the
obviously,
K. Good for K. Torto.
Yeah, and I always put the K in
The
there.
K is
Kofi.
That's the middle.
That's the
Oh,
one.
that's
So if
your
you see the
middle name,
Kofi, you know it's a
Kofi.
Ghanaian. But if people just hear Godfrey Torto, they don't relate it to necessarily to Ghanaian. But it is a known Ghanaian name, not one of the most known Ghanaian names.
Oh, Torto.
So, yeah.
But obviously, that's what the British people say, Torto.
Yeah, that's it, Torto.
Torto.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's nice to have you here. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
No,
Thank you for
thank you
coming.
for
You know what I
having
mean?
me.
We slightly are on a run of having amazing guests. So
Yes.
you're in a, I would say, in a good company. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So we've
yeah.
got Sammy here, the
Yeah.
director
Going on.
of ELA. You know, I said it like it's just an everyday thing, but yeah, you know what I mean. And you've got me, Coach Banks. Yeah, Banks for short. Yeah, we brought it here again for you to like sort of delve into the unique conversations we're having with this podcast, or I would say within ELA, and just talk us through how you got into football. Because the thing is, you just wake up one morning and went, I want to be a sports agent now. So yeah, so just talk us through the start for how you got into football.
Yeah. Getting into football, I mean, if I was to kind of try and give it a 360, I think, and I guess because most of your, obviously ELA, you've got a lot of young kids and stuff, so I can relate it to that journey. I think I first started playing football. I grew up initially Chiswick, West London. Then my mum moved to Isworth, to Ivy Bridge Estate in Isworth. And my first thoughts of playing football was in Ivy Bridge School. And then I joined a team called Junior Bees, which I think is still running now.
That is still running, yeah.
Yeah, I joined a team called Junior Bees, and then started doing well gradually there. I remember my first game I ever played. I think I played left back, which I'm right footed, and my team lost like about 11-0 or something like that. But you know, we kept going, kept playing, and then I ended up becoming one of the better players at Junior Bees. And there was a really strong local team called West Middlesex Colts at the time, and we played against them, and I think I scored 2 goals. And then they really wanted me to join. I ended up eventually joining there, and they had a lot of the best players, sort of Isworth, Brentford, Chiswick area. Joined there, and that team ended up doing really, really well. We ended up winning most like Middlesex Cup, like Middlesex Fives, like quite consistently over a good 2-3 year period. Same team Peter Crouch used to play in a year below us as well. And then I think from there, what happened is when I got into secondary school, we always used to hear things like about scouts, like interesting and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I think with my mum, she was from a different era. She didn't really get to the games. And I didn't really have a father figure there either to kind of know what was going on with that stuff. And then now it's a lot different, right? And I remember my first year in school, we had a really good team, and we ended up all the way getting to Middlesex finals. We played Enfield School, and we won. And that game, there was a scout from Chelsea at the time, a guy called Bob Osborne. I don't know if some of you may have known him. He's like really well-known sort of Chelsea guy. He only left Chelsea probably about 6-7 years ago, but he scouted a lot of players over the years, and he asked, I think it was 2 of us or 3 of us from that game to go on trial to Chelsea. And I went on trial there. And then after that, I think I played 2 games and they wanted to sign. So joined Chelsea, I think, at the age of 12. And I think I joined there as a sort of winger, midfielder. And then I think in the second year, I remember we played a game against a player that I think we played a district team a year above or something. And there was a centre-half that was at Chelsea at the time, but they wanted to challenge him a bit. So they said, look, play up front. And I'd done really well up front. And then that's it. I changed to a striker. And I ended up playing at Chelsea through the years, really, up until sort of school scholarship age. But there was a lot of dynamics within that period that some good, some unfortunate, that probably didn't work out for me. I guess I'm telling you quite a lot of the story, but it probably helps the background or context of the conversation. When I was, I'd done really well at Chelsea. I was top goal scorer for the seasons I was there. And my age group was we had Jimmy Agri, Jody Morris. But what happened at schoolboy age, I was asked to sign a schoolboy with Jody. Me and Jody had the same birthdays. So we were asked to sign. They normally do it at half time at a first team game. But I, at the time, my Sunday team manager was clashing a lot with Chelsea and with my scout Bob Osborne, and he didn't want me to sign it. So my friend had not signed his, Jimmy. His birthday was a bit before mine, and there was a lot of pressure on me to not sign it. He was saying that, if you sign now, they'll take you for granted when you get older, when you get to 16 age, to put them off a bit. And I didn't really know, right? I'm a young kid. I trusted him. I've known him for years. My mum knew him first as well. And then other parents from my team also were ringing, because back then you didn't have mobiles, right? You're ringing house phones. And they were ringing me. I remember I got 3 calls from other parents that he had obviously got to try and persuade me not to sign it, saying, oh, don't sign it. And my mum, she trusted him as well. So I remember Bob coming to my doorstep, and I remember sitting on the stairs and him talking to my mum for probably about 45 minutes, just trying to say, look, sign it, it'd be a great opportunity for you. And my mum didn't know football, right? So, and Chelsea had given me an option that even if I didn't sign it, I could still stay, which wouldn't happen now. If you don't sign things, they get rid of you. But I think they liked me that much at the time. They gave me an option. I think me having an option wasn't a good thing, because I ended up not taking the option to sign it. My mum said, look, if he doesn't have to, maybe just leave it as it is and let him just keep playing, which I think, obviously in hindsight, and knowing football now, and it was a wrong choice. And I remember I started sometimes not always going into training. I'd hang out with my mates.
If you don't mind me asking, what year was this?
Schoolboy age, so I was probably U14, U15, yeah. So you sign normally a 2-year scholar, a 2-year schoolboy before you sign a scholarship. And I remember one night I was supposed to be training. I used to train at Battersea Park. I remember one night I was supposed to be training, and my teacher at school, he asked me to play in a game for sixth form, which obviously they're 2-3 years older, which I shouldn't have really been playing in. But I said yes, and in that game, I fractured my tibia and fibula all in one break. And it was a night I was supposed to be training at Chelsea. And that put me out for a good 9 months. And I remember losing a bit of interest in football, had mates coming over and stuff like that. But I got myself together. And I remember the first game I came back for Chelsea, Neil Bath, who's just left Chelsea at the time, I think he'd just sort of gone to Chelsea and he was taking a game. And the person that I was on the bench, but the person who was supposed to start was late. So I got thrusted in, and I remember I had a 1-on-1 and I completely shanked it. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've been out for so long. But then adrenaline kicked in and I banged in 2 goals against Arsenal. So we ended up winning 3-2. I scored 2 goals. I was on a high, but definitely it was adrenaline. And then I think after that, I had a period where I was playing in games, but I felt like I was still playing catch up a little bit, which was natural. And I remember there was one Sunday, Bob had come to pick me up, and I was a bit late. And I remember getting to the meet point, and he had obviously gone. And I said, "You didn't have mobiles then." I couldn't ring him, or we didn't communicate. And I remember going home and feeling a bit embarrassed. So I didn't ring him, and they didn't ring me. And I think it got to the point where, because I was always sometimes not always at training, Chelsea probably just got fed up and thought, look, this guy, maybe he's even playing other places or whatever. So I just pretended I didn't want to go. I remember my mate Jimmy was still there, and he would say to me, "God, they're asking like, what are you doing?" And I used to just pretend I was all right. But it got to the point where it's at school scholarship age, and I hadn't gone to another club yet. And I asked him, "Look, do you know what? Do you reckon they let me go back?" And he answered me and said, "Yes, but I had to train with a younger age group." So yeah, I done that, done well, and then they asked me back in. And then I ended up doing really well, scoring goals, went back with the youth team. But a lot of the dynamics have changed, where there was a new coach, Graham Ricks had come in, he had signed other players where I was fighting against. And football's like a fast-paced game, right? If you miss, I always say you have windows of opportunity, right? Yeah. And I feel like where he had signed other players and where I was top boy before, I'm fighting against players he had signed. I just think the dynamics have changed. And unfortunately, even though I got in the team, I think in the first week I trained with the youth team, I started against Reading, and then we played Charlton, Arsenal. But I just think the dynamics of the teams and players have changed, and eventually I didn't end up signing on. Where I look back in it, I think I could have had a good career at Chelsea if it was based on ability, but there was the ill-advised, I think my Sunday team advice was, and that's why I love doing what I do now, because I love trying to help young people make good decisions or better decisions, or I can see when maybe someone's getting manipulated, or because there's a lot of that goes on.
Do you feel like obviously you've played at an academy and you've played at a good level? Do you feel like that's why you know a lot now?
Definitely, I think playing at an academy helped me back then. I learned a lot about the game, like obviously things on the pitch. I learned a lot off the pitch. I feel that the dynamics that go around academy football, not just on the pitch, a lot of things that happen off it. I feel that that's obviously helped me massively in being able to be an advisor to families and parents, because I suffered the ill part of it as well, where there's other things away from the pitch that affected the talent. You know what I mean? If it was like just I had the right guidance and didn't get those things, then the talent, I would have gone and had a good career. But yeah.
Well, interestingly, that's why I wanted to keep it in a very chronological way. So, of course, you've played football, academy. I think you played with John Terry, if I'm not mistaken.
A couple of times we played together where he played a few years up.
Oh, okay.
And that was when I went back. And I had to prove myself. I had to play U16s a few games, and he played up a couple of times.
So after this situation, then of course after the academy, you came out of football. You were not signed on, like you said. So what then happened next after that? What did you do?
Yeah, I think
because it's tough, because there'll be a lot of kids or parents watching this. The reason I'm asking this is to delve into your psyche at that time and how you coped with.
I think good question. I think the two key periods that happened. So when Chelsea didn't offer me, I think, to be honest, I look back in it now and I didn't realise at the time, but I was probably a bit like mini depressed. Like I think because I didn't want to go out, you didn't want to tell people you'd left.
Embarrassed.
I remember putting a bit of weight as well, and it took me a while to get to grips with it. But I remember after a period of time, I sort of got myself together, and then I started writing to football clubs myself. So I started writing to clubs, and you have to obviously post your own letters. You couldn't email them back then.
And what were you writing about?
Asking for trials.
Oh, okay.
So I got myself together, and I just started asking for trials. And then I got a few responses. And one of my friends, Richie Hanlon, I think he's Hayes and Yedden head coach, I think so. I think now. He had just moved to Southend. And I'd wrote to them, and they had said that, asked him, and they said, bring him in. Do you know what I mean? So I went there. But again, it's a lot of the dynamics, and that's where I think we will delve into those things. Parent support and help's massive. I was travelling to Southend from Isleworth, getting a train down there myself. Some days, like not having the money to really do it, and they couldn't afford to pick me up. So I was at Southend for a period, and again, I was top goal scorer scoring, but I think not having that guidance to help me, I ended up not doing it there, where they were like, look, if it's based on ability, you would still be at Chelsea, right? But where some days I wouldn't maybe going in and things like that. But that was a period that was difficult. And then obviously again, when I was older, where you get older and you start realising, oh, football, maybe it's not going to happen. I had to find I had to find another shift into doing something that I would want to do. Like, and that's a big change from thinking you're going to be a footballer to doing that, which is a whole nother dynamic where I ended up getting into the career that I eventually got into.
Yeah, and it's just the timeline that most people will be more interested in. For me as well, will be interested in, because I'm interested in your timeline, because let's say you came out of football in totally like you're like, you know what, this is probably not for me, or I don't think I can go to the next level. At the age of, let's say, 17, did you?
No, because at 17 I think I was at Chelsea at 17. Still at Chelsea, and then eventually I went to Southend as well. Right. So I had that period at Southend too, and I said not for football talent reasons I didn't end up continuing at Southend, and then from there I sort of like bounced around trying semi-pro a little bit, and then I was still trying to get trials. And I remember really, it's not like today. Like today, you've got things like ELA, or I've got an academy. There's so many other ways that if you've come out of a club, like
It's changed
you've
so
got
much
so many
now.
platforms.
There's scouts everywhere now.
Yeah.
You can go online. They can find
And you
AG,
didn't have
they can find
really,
ELA.
you didn't
You
have
don't
nowhere
that
near as
back
many
in the day,
agents. Like back then, you didn't have agents. Like back now, if you come out of Chelsea now, like Chelsea are stronger now than what they were then, but still, it was a big club, right? You come out of clubs like that, you've got agents all over
Left,
you.
right, and centre,
People try to send you this. It wasn't like that. So.
So how did you get into the agency then? Like,
Yeah,
what was that first step into
That's the
So
timeline,
the timeline's moved on. I think when I was I was still playing semi-pro in and out, like 21, 22. And then I remember I had my older son now, who's 25. And I remember he was playing for a local team. And the chairman of that team, he also was working at a celebrity PR company in Fulham. And they were trying to get into work with footballers. And I think at the time I was like 26 at the time. So I was still sort of knocking about in and out semi-professionally. But in terms of a professional career, that had I realised that weren't really going to happen. Even though I still think I was pushing it up to 25 or stuff like that. But you get to that realisation that it's probably not really going to work out, right? So I remember... them asking me about trying to get footballers to work with them, and I had a meeting with them in Twickenham. A good friend of mine, Robbie Ringwood, now today, still till today, and I was helping a lady called Patty Boulay. She is a singer, a music artist, but she was doing a big event at the Royal Albert Hall, and it was called Football Reaching Out for Africa. She used to build AIDS clinics in Africa, educational. And she wanted me to try and get some footballers to attend that event. And at the time, she had Didier Drogba that got involved in the event. And I got that PR company involved. And from there, I started working with them, a company called Full Portion, a guy called Arun, who's magic in terms of his PR brain. And I learned so much being there. And then I think the first client I got them was Nigeria Coco when he just moved to Aston Villa. And then from there, we were going to try and get more players involved. But unfortunately, the guy ended up having a heart attack that ran the company. And certain dynamics had changed where I left. And I ended up going, well, his wife asked me to stay. I ended up going back there. But it wasn't really working as much. And I had set up my own company at the time, which was more going to be like concierge lifestyle, because everyone always, that's my name, Nick Arts Godders, came up initially, because people always ask me things like, where can I go out for dinner? Where can I get a car from? So I was going to do a concierge lifestyle business, but it just so happened that I got introduced to a guy from Dragon's Den that would gold plate things. And he went to this thing called Signature Range, where you get celebrities to get their signatures engraved, and like iPods, and then royalties would go to the celebrities. So I managed to do a deal with Frank Lampard. We done like a Frank Lampard signatured gold-plated iPod that the royalties that Frank would have made, he gave to Teenage Cancer Trust. and we launched that in Harrods with Frank, which was great, and that got me working with players, but off the field, and it was my company's first sort of thing that I'd organised, but it was great because obviously it was Frank, it was a massive name at the time, it was in Harrods, and then I started doing more things off the pitch for footballers, like building their brands, and we done like a Bobby Moore fund one with Bobby Moore's signature, and then I got Colton Cole, who obviously I know he's on the pod, he's a family friend of mine. He came with Sol Campbell, and then from there it evolved where I kept doing things for players off the pitch, and I didn't want to be an agent initially because my main thing was doing things for players off the pitch. I was this PR guy that was always bringing opportunities for players that agents weren't doing, and I enjoyed doing that. But then I remember Joe Cole's dad at the time, I was trying to do a deal for them, and he was like, look, you'd be good agent. And a really nice guy. So I had a meeting with them. It didn't come together. I ended up not sure about doing it. And then Robbie Ringwood, who I was saying was the guy that got me involved with PR, he told me that you should meet Van Persie's agent. Like, they just like come into London, and I reckon you could do some stuff with them. So he connected me with them, and initially I was talking about doing like commercial deals for Van Persie, but to be fair, again, I think the deal didn't come together. I was trying to do like a fragrance deal or the iPod deal. But his agent was like, look, do you know what? Like, we bought a UK company. It didn't really work out. We're looking for someone that can build the UK part of our agency. Like, we think you'd be good at it because you've got good connections here. You're already working with some big names. So we didn't really join initially. But then after a while, I agreed to deal with them. And that was like 2010. So yeah, started working with them. They had an office in Hammersmith and in Amsterdam. It was just on off Fulham Palace Road. And I was with them for 3 to 4 years. And that was a great experience because I still had my PR company where I was doing things for players off the pitch. And that had evolved into not just footballers. I was also doing, I had a client called Andrew Ramroot, who's a tailor on Savile Row. He was known as like the first black tailor. I used to make Lady Diana's jackets. So I was trying to bring him into the mainstream. So I was doing PR for him, and I was doing stuff for players, and it was just evolving. But the football agency stuff was great with them because at the time they weren't as established. They had Robin Van Persie, and then they had Thomas Vermaelen. But I kind of started building up the UK part of it from a ground base, which was good because in a way, when I first done it, I felt me and Robin's agent, Case, would work together more, but it didn't end up being that way. But in a way, it was good because I had to do a lot of it myself. And there was another guy as well from Liverpool doing it. So that was a great experience. So that's how I kind of fell into it. As I said, it wasn't something that I planned to do. I always felt like doing the PR, which I still do now. But yeah, the agency, I got into it that way.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask then, who was your first footballer that you got signed under your agency under your company?
Well, I think obviously there was players that I signed when I was with the Dutch firm SCG. It was funny actually. I always can't remember the first player that I signed. I remember there was a couple ones like that were around that time. So around that time, I had a young lad at Reading called Charlie Lasasso, really skillful player, Italian player, Italian heritage, sorry. And I signed him. I remember he was one of the first. And then another academy that I started getting involved with quite a lot was Fulham. So I signed 2 players from Fulham, one called Michael Kamara and another striker as well. But again, it's like, my main thing then was just trying to get some good young players, and then try and see if you could evolve with them.
But what are you looking for as an agent? No, so just say now you're Godfrey the agent now, like you've passed that stage, you're the agent now. Like, what are you looking for as an agent? Like, what attributes?
I think it depends on what market I'm going for. Like, if I'm going for like young players, and then you've got the young players that are in the clubs that obviously the ones that everyone's trying to get that are already there and established, and you've got young players that are unsigned that you're looking at them and going, right, have they got the talent and the work ethic and the mindset to take them from there to professional? I think that obviously if you're looking for the players, the young ones that are in the clubs, you're looking for players that are doing very well, ideally, ones that have got strong mentality, because I think to survive in football, it's not just about talent. You've got to have a strong mentality to take the knocks and the blows, because there are a lot of them, even before you get your break and then after you get your break. So you're looking for players like that. Then the ones that are unsigned, and that's one of the passions that I have because of my experience of what happened to me. That's why I was very big on starting an academy to help players that have been released or not been signed.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. Like, obviously, I've worked with Godfrey before. I've seen the work that he's done firsthand. I think in terms of that market of getting players that are maybe unsigned or maybe like the big agencies haven't taken them, Godfrey's probably the best agent in that regard of getting a player like that signed at a professional club.
Thank you. No,
I'm not just saying that. We haven't rehearsed this. like honestly, when it comes to that market, yeah, you know, like some players that are playing 2 years up, they might be going to these big agencies. I don't want to mention their names, give them credit, but like the other ones, Godfrey probably could work with them and he will get them a deal. Yeah. I've seen it firsthand. As like obviously my friend,
Yasin,
we can say his name. So like, that's a crazy story that you done with.
Nah,
Yas.
it was.
You got the guys.
I'm proud of all them stories.
Yeah.
I think
that's a crazy story, man.
You know, I'm proud.
Godfrey's had players get released from Barnet, and sign at a bigger club.
Yeah,
like and that's something interestingly. That's something I really want us to touch on and talk about because. Like I said again, random person could just tap into this and just click and play. You know, it happens all the time. You know what I mean? And your story or the things you've been through could just be an inspiration for them, to them, and it could just help people around them. You know what I mean? So in this situation, let's say, like Sammy just said, a crazy story. I know how the world works when it comes to, someone said crazy story, and you guys just skipped past that. If you don't mind sharing this crazy story.
Definitely. I've got a few.
Please,
I mean, and it's stuff, it's work that I'm always very proud of because while I go into the story.
With Yasin's deal, I don't think any agent in the world could have got it like how you did.
It was mad how it happened.
I would like to hear this.
I've got to tell you. I'm not going to keep going around it too much. So, I mean, obviously, when I was with the Dutch firm, to give a bit of context with it, at the time, they wanted me to either bring in big name Premier League players or the best young talent, like in clubs already. But I always knew, just like myself, I got released from Chelsea, but it wasn't based on ability. So there was other Godfreys out there that just needed a platform. So I always had a passion. I was always getting phone calls from people saying, look, could you help my son? Could you look at him? Or I've got this kid, could you have a look? So I started doing sessions for free in Ravenscourt Park. I had Luke joined a couple of sessions. I had a friend, Dave, that helped me with a couple of sessions. And then eventually they couldn't continue. So I started doing it myself. And there was a number of different players that were just coming. And to go into one of the stories, obviously there's Yasin, who's a local boy in Shepherd's Bush. When he first used to come, he wasn't even one of the players that I would always pick. We started playing games against academies. So I think our first game played Stevenage, then Wimbledon. The first summer, he wasn't a player that I thought while he was skillful, but I felt he didn't really have a game understanding and probably a little bit not in shape. Yeah. And then the second summer around, he came back really lean, really aggressive, wanting to prove a point. And I was like, right, I think we can help him. I remember we played a game against Barnet. We lost 1-0, but we done really well. And they asked 4 players to come back on trial. And Yasin was one of them. They ended up keeping 2 of them on that ended up staying there. Him and a kid called Joel, who's a very good player as well, very talented player. He was unfortunate. He had a leg fracture at the time that kind of his destiny at the club didn't work out. But Yasin ended up doing quite well there, scoring a number of goals, doing well. But then what happened with him? I got him an opportunity. He was playing Watford. And actually, a good friend of mine now who coaches at Leighton Orient under 18s, Mark. He was at Watford at the time. I said, listen, there's a kid playing against Watford today. Have a look at him. And Yasin happened to bang in 2 goals, right? So Watford were like, bring him in. bring him in. And at the time at Barnet, they didn't have them on scholars. They had them on just like signed papers to come in and play. So he asked him, I said, go in. And he's like, oh, I'm not sure about it. And I said, right, mate, just go and watch for the championship. Barnet had just been in a conference at conference at the time. He's like, Edgar Davers wants me to train with the first team. And I was like, so then I think he didn't go in. And then he didn't end up training with the first team either that much. I think or once that week. And in that time, we weren't speaking as much. And then actually, Naughty, he actually signed with another agent. After I took him from nowhere, he signed with another agent.
The agent that I introduced him to.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I
I didn't know you these times.
I didn't even know that.
I haven't told him this.
This is new. This is new to me, right? But anyway, the
If
story
it's the
ended
one
up
I'm
being
thinking,
fine.
is it the one I'm thinking?
I don't even know the guy.
Yeah, if it's the one I'm
So
thinking.
this is when he was
yeah.
like 16 or 17.
If it's the one I'm thinking.
So
yeah.
I don't even know the guy
Yeah,
anyway.
Sammy
So he
just put
signed
his
with
foot
another
in it.
agent, right? And I remember going, hold on a minute, you weren't even playing 11-a-side football from anywhere. I remember I spoke to his dad about it, and he was like, oh, sorry. So we didn't talk for about a year or so. And then I remember he contacted me saying, oh, it's not really working out with the agent. And then Barnet had released him as well. But at the time, he was odds on. I had West Brom and Sunderland. They both said, bring him in on trial. And that's when I found out. He told me he signed with another agent. And at the time, I was sort of in transition of leaving the Dutch firm as well. So anyway, he was asking to come back. And I ended up saying, okay, I'll meet you and the parents and stuff. We met them. And then I ended up saying, I helped him get out of the contract with the agency. And then I sent him on a few trials, Watford, Bournemouth, and he was doing well on the trials. The Watford trial, they had loads of players there, one from Inter Milan, Real Madrid, all these players, they got all these trial players. But I felt Yassin played the best, but they didn't invite him back. And I remember
But that's
thinking,
good that
you know
you
what?
stuck. Like one thing I would say with Godfrey is like he would stick with his players that he believes in.
Yeah,
Because like
yeah.
not just Yassin's story. We'll go into the other ones
There's
as
other
well.
ones, yeah.
He's got not just Yassin that he's got stories like this. He's got other players that like they've gone on 3-4 trials and they haven't got in, and like other agents might be like, oh, he might not be good enough. But Godfrey's stuck with them. He's seen something.
If I believe in
credit
him,
to you,
I'll
your
push
talent
it.
identification is good enough
Yeah.
to see the end goal.
If I believe in them, I think it's always about finding the right opportunity for them.
Because even like,
you're right,
sorry,
some agencies will say
even
to
like
me,
what Jamie said 2 days ago, before he signed at Sunderland, he went to I think was it 2-3 clubs before
Yeah.
Sunderland signed
Yeah.
him. Then he
Yeah.
still went to the Prem.
right, yeah, see. And I think there's definitely that's the case because I think like I speak to agents and they'll say to me, God, if you've sent someone on trial once or twice, like why are you still like mate,
Yeah.
boom, the level you're working at, why are you putting that time
Yeah.
into like
It's so mad.
But-
You know, it's people think that's what I'm saying. Scouts in the game now think that as well. Like, just say there's a player he's gone on trial at a Cat 2 club and he's not signed. No Cat 1 team.
No,
will take
they
him.
won't look- yeah,
They won't
most
even.
of-
They won't even hear the conversation.
Yeah,
But I've
yeah.
seen players though. I've seen it with my own eyes many times. A player's gone to a Cat 2 trial, didn't quite make it. Worked on a few weaknesses and he signed at a much bigger
much
Cat
bigger
1.
club, yeah. And
what I mean?
this Yassin story was a massive point of that because, like I said, in the end, I sent him on them trials and I said to him, listen, at the moment, I think clubs when I'm sending you there, they're still getting in their head that you're a player released from Barnet, so they're not taking you. So go and play non-league. One of my friends, Darren, at the time, who was managing at Lewis, he's an agent now as well. He said he needs a number 10. So I said, look, go and play there. If you learn how to play non-league for like 3-4 months, you're talented, but you need to learn how to dominate playing at that level. You'll be able to go in the 21s in academy football and bully it. He went down there and he done quite well. He didn't smash it though, to be honest, but he learned in that period. And there was a time I got him a trial at West Brom. And then because of my background in PR, I'll be honest, I tell one of my kind of skills that I did do, but my background in PR, I
This is
managed
the magic
to,
trick.
what I'd done, I remember sitting in the Birmingham station coming back from West Brom, and I've got a friend to put it on the trade on Sky Sports that Yassin was on trial there. Normally they don't put trial things on there, so it come up on the trader thing. And then I spoke to a couple of media outlets, 442. I can't remember. I think one of them was Daily Mail, a couple of them. And I nicknamed him the non-league Marz. So because Marz was doing so well and Yassin is from America,
Sorry to
from
interrupt
North
you.
Africa. Yeah.
I was just gonna say because I remember I was one of the guys that read that on the newspaper.
Right,
I read it
right,
on
right.
Metro.
Right.
So
Godfrey
Metro-
got that
See,
everywhere.
it went everywhere, yeah. So
That's how
I,
Metro,
football
so-
works, you know,
so
man.
So
Metro.
I
Well,
nicknamed
carry
him the
on, sir.
non-league
Yeah,
Marz
yeah.
because he was doing well, and obviously Marz is Algerian and
Yeah,
Moroccan.
yeah.
And I think once I put him as a non-league Marz, and what I'd done, a couple of his skills videos that he used to do,
Yeah.
I linked it to the papers, and then it just went viral. And then from there, it ended up putting him on the map, where a lot of clubs was interested to who is this non-league Marz? Do you know what I mean? And I spoke with Liverpool. They had even spoke about bringing him in. I spoke with a number of clubs, and I think he went on trial. West Brom didn't even put him in a game, by the way. So even though he done well in training, they didn't put him in a game. And then I got him to Palace, and he didn't tell me that he had an injury. He went Palace, didn't do as well at Palace, and I sorted that through Mark Bright's going Palace. That didn't work out. So in the end, he went QPR.
And Mark Bright didn't have much good things to say, did he?
No, he weren't happy about it because he'd gone in there, which I understand. Mark had suck it out, got him in, and he'd gone in there injured, and he didn't tell me that either. So me and Yasin had a bit of a thing about that because it didn't make me look good, and obviously for Mark, he wasn't happy about it either, understandably.
Naturally, yeah.
So in the end, we got him in at QPR, and he was doing well. For some reason, they didn't play him in one of their games, which we'd agreed if he'd done well in training, you play in a game. And Chelsea had wanted to watch him in one of the games. But then in the end, it got to a point where Chelsea has said, look, just bring him in. We'll have a look. I was talking with Jim Fraser at the time, and he said, bring him in. We'll have a look. And I said, yes, look, Chelsea want to bring you in. QPR didn't play you in that game. What are you thinking? And we weren't sure what to do. So we spoke with QPR about it, and they were saying, I said, look, I'll be honest, Chelsea do want to bring him in. What are you thinking? You've got a game. And they were playing Chelsea that week in a friendly. So it was like a bit of a clash scenario. And he missed his first trial day at Chelsea because we weren't sure what to do. Right. So I said, yes, look, you're 20 or going 21. You make the decision. Like, I don't want to make the decision for you. There's pros and cons. You could go to Chelsea for 2 days and they say, see you later. Do you know what I mean? Because big clubs like that, if you don't look good after 3-4 days, you're not staying in trial. QPR are saying they like you, but there's nothing on the table. They didn't play you in a game that you're going to play in. And against Chelsea, we don't know whether they're going to play you either. They've said that they don't know whether they'll play you in it or start you. And the trial was due to finish in a week. So we was like, what do you want to do? He's like, do you know what? I want to go Chelsea. Which I get, right? It's a big opportunity. Not every day Chelsea asks to look at a player at 20 years old playing in non-league. Playing in non-league. So to get that opportunity to go on trial to Chelsea in non-league was like huge, right? It was almost unheard of. Chelsea don't trial players at 20 from non-league. Do you know what I mean? So
that's you using your links, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Obviously, I had great relationships at Chelsea. Because obviously I played there and whatever, and I had good relationships. So
wasn't Jody the coach as well, or no?
No, at the time, I think the first team manager. I think it was one of the times where they had an interim first team manager. I can't remember.
But like the 21s, was he not there? Was Jody not there?
Now he was doing the 18s. So Jody was doing the 18s. I can't remember. I mean, Eddie Newton was part of the first team coaching staff. I can't remember exactly who was the first team coach at the time. But anyway, he went in and he trained with the first team on his first day, which was mad. And I remember watching it. I watched it with Neil Bath and Jim Fraser right by the side of the pitch. And I remember he'd done a couple of things. I think he dinked. I think was it Berkovic at the time? He was there. They had a goalkeeper. He dinked him twice in the session. I remember Jim turning around and goes, "What was that?" So he done really well.
That's crazy.
And then he ended up playing against. Well done, Yas. And then he ended up playing against Chelsea, QPR. Done well. QPR were upset. And they blamed me for it, but it was like, look, the player made the choice, and I think it was the right choice because he went there. He ended up being on trial for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and his main debut, he scored against Middlesbrough. And I spoke to all the clubs up north and said, look, he's paying. I spoke to Man United. Man United would tell me to bring him in, and I was saying I can't bring him in and bring him out of Chelsea for another trial. Watch him. And in the end, Newcastle watched him that night. They rang me the same night
against Middlesbrough.
Yeah, against Middlesbrough where he scored. And they said, look, could we bring him in? I said, I can't take him out of Chelsea for a trial. Watch him again. They watched him against Everton, and I don't think he'd done that well. So I was like, yes, I don't know what they're going to say, right? But they ended up, because obviously at the time, Chelsea were considering offering him a deal and had other clubs considering offering him a deal. Newcastle just slapped the deal down. He ended up getting like a 3-year package altogether, like not going on trial. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of that obviously was the hype around him and the push with other clubs and whatever. But yeah, he ended up going there, and look, to be fair, you know, when he had his head down, he managed to make a debut, played at St James's Park, right? Yeah, started, and a year before that, he's running in Ravenscourt Park, right? No club never really been signed at a
That's
club,
mad.
was playing at Barnet in conference. So I'm proud of those stories to be able to help
Yeah,
a
that's a
player go
crazy story,
from
man.
no background,
You got
he
a
had
few
no
like that though,
footballing.
man.
Yeah, so and that's what I love doing. While obviously like I've worked with Premier League players, like I know you had Carlton on there. I've managed Carlton for a period of years. I've managed as a PR client, I had Nathaniel Klein for a period of years. I love helping players also that maybe don't have the CV but have the talent, or maybe they've been released and I can look at them and go, right,
But
okay.
why do you feel like those sort of players have slipped through the net though? It's like because you got Jaden who's in the Prem.
Yeah,
or
so
is-
Jaden's in the Premier at Arsenal.
Jaden got
Brilliant
released
player.
from Arsenal.
Brilliant
he's got a
player.
player and he's a Prem player now. So like
Yeah, again, I think Jaden another brilliant story.
So
'cause
what with Jaden?
Jaden Anthony. So Jaden
Okay,
Anthony, brilliant story with him. I remember, funny enough, I went and how I even came into contact with him. I went and done an event where I got asked to speak on a panel about like entrepreneurship and whatever. And then his dad at the time was doing some networking thing there at the time. And we just got talking and he kept trying to get me to join this networking thing that I wasn't interested in. But eventually he ended up mentioning he's got a son at Arsenal. And he just said, yeah, we just kept in touch. And then when it got to scholarship age, he wasn't sure what they would do. So he said, look, do you know what? This is after 4 years.
So did he
of
get
being-
really some scholarship age?
Yeah,
just to, touch,
U16.
just to touch on that, like, there's so many players at Arsenal or Chelsea that will get a scholar, get a pro, but will never play in the Prem or
Yes.
never even get to
Get
champ.
near it. Never even
Jaden
get
got
near it.
released at under 16
Yes.
and he's played in the Prem. And he's,
Yeah.
he's part of. what
Well,
is
he's
it?
a Bournemouth
Bournemouth player,
contracted
yeah.
player, but he's on loan now at
to
Burnley.
Leeds. Burnley, sorry.
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
Leeds last year, yeah.
But he what he done at Bournemouth has been amazing, right? And again, it's good to tell that story because, you know, at the time he was really small. So when he was at Arsenal, while he was technically talented, I think he was there from like 6 or 7, right? But when it got to scholarship age, he was really small. And I remember I sent a scout to watch him. One of my good friends, a scout at Newcastle now, he was working at Sheffield Wednesday at the time. And he went to watch him against Tottenham. And I remember him coming, but the report back to him was like bit lightweight, didn't really get involved in the game that much, not really a player for us. So I remember thinking, okay, it's not going to be that easy, this one. Because some people just think, just because you're coming out of an Arsenal or Tottenham or whatever, like it's easy to get another club. There's certain dynamics where it's not always like that. So I remember I went to go and watch him. I remember I got on the train all the way down to Crystal Palace. I got him a trial at Crystal Palace next. And I remember he come off the bench, last 30 minutes, skipped past 3 players, banged it top corner. So I'm going, this kid's got something.
Yeah.
So I remember talking to him after the game with his dad and saying, listen, if you've got that in a locker, like you need to demand things more, because he was a bit quiet. And I said, if you're capable of doing that, like no one else in the game done anything like that, right? You've got something. And they didn't even look at him again, by the way, even after he scored that goal. And I remember at the
So
time,
he skipped past 3 players.
skipped past 3
Bang the
players,
top bins.
rifled in top bins, like
Palace
unbelievable
didn't look at
goal.
him again.
And they didn't invite him back in.
Damn, Palace, man.
They had
Yeah,
players that
damn.
could do that.
Yeah, well, he done brilliantly, right? And then I remember after that, he played a few games in my academy. We played Wimbledon, my academy, and we lost 1-0. But he was the best player on the pitch.
Don't tell me they didn't take him.
I'll be honest,
What?
they didn't even bring him on
This
the
is what
trial.
I mean, yeah.
They
Look,
didn't, like-
so look at Jaden Anthony now, Premier League player, played against Wimbledon. The scouts are there. They've seen him. Godfrey saying he was the best on the pitch. Why are you not taking him?
You know what it was?
Why are
They
you
were
not taking
saying
him?
that they had some
bad people.
They said they had
in
similar.
no,
They-
bad people in full-time roles.
Yeah,
Bad people
yeah.
that are scouts. They don't understand
That's
football.
facts. They don't,
That's a
they don't.
perfect
It
example.
was a bit
Maybe
mad.
it's a bit personal.
If
for
you know,
them.
there's
It's very personal
there's,
for them,
there's
yeah.
talent identification and scouts, yeah. So like talent identification is what's he gonna look like in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7
Exactly,
years. So he might be
absolutely.
small at the time, but if you're seeing him skip past
I'm not
3
gonna
players,
lie, in that game, the Wimbledon game as well, like he was a joke. Like
I
I
didn't
remember
take
there
him.
was a few players, a few guys that some of the guys we know, they watched it. Like some of Yassir's mates, they watched it. He skipped past people, was looking brilliant in that game. And for some reason, I spoke to him after the game, and they were like, "Yeah, we will get him in, but we've got another player that's similar to him."
I hate when they do
And
that.
I
I
remember
just said
thinking
that.
to
That's
myself,
because they-
like,
yeah.
how are
Yeah.
you not being? But listen, to be honest with you, I wasn't that fussed because I felt
He's better
he
than
had
that.
a chance of
Yeah.
getting better options
Yeah,
than
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So I didn't push it.
But it's just mad to see people
but
in
I
these
was
roles
surprised
that
that
get
he
it wrong.
didn't-
Because
yeah.
they've clearly got it wrong. They've
Pull it to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's not just pull it to you. They
Yeah,
might
like
just
that,
pull it
bit
to you,
more.
like, put it this way. There you go.
Yeah.
That's it. So you
So I
can
was a bit surprised.
They've
at the
clearly
time.
got it wrong though.
No,
Like,
100% they
bro,
got it
'cause
wrong
he's-
because they
look
didn't
at it
even
now,
look at him.
now.
Yeah.
He's a Premier League footballer.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
got he's on loan to Burnley, which is champ.
Championship, yeah, top end
Where's
championship club.
Wimbledon? League 2 at the time?
Yeah,
League
yeah,
1, League
yeah.
2. So like,
they wouldn't be selling players like that to
Oh,
those clubs,
yeah.
not looking
Not
at
and
them.
for
so-
them not even to give him a trial,
Nah,
let
they
alone
were
sign
they
him.
were unsure about trialing him properly.
Let alone sign him.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't even get past the first stage or invite him
Yeah,
on trial.
they were unsure about the trial,
What year
and
was
in the
this?
end, this is like
think he was in charge.
2017, 18.
Oh, it's not even that long ago.
Yeah, it
no,
weren't that
it's
long
not
ago.
that long.
Yeah,
Okay,
7 years.
we weren't mentioning who was
okay.
in charge.
Yeah,
but,
we know now.
but anyway,
I know who he is now. I know who's there.
But anyway, they didn't bring him in. And look, people make mistakes as well, right? But
Yeah,
they didn't bring him in.
But those are costly mistakes.
No,
though.
definitely,
and that's
definitely.
that's another thing. I believe people like you in a role and in that you have this responsibility
To try and help
cut
me.
out the.
Yes.
You know what I mean. The mistakes should be really low.
And-
but like Sammy said, they
Because
used to doing these
I got a
things.
similar story with like Godfrey, you know. You know the twins that I just signed at
oh,
Reading?
yes,
yeah.
yeah, seen them.
Ballers.
Oh.
They're both incredible. I'm not gonna say this because they might listen to this, but they're both incredible. One of them I like really, really, really.
Yeah,
like, he's-
one.
I think
The
he's-
twins, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best.
Yeah.
Wingers in his age group in the country,
Right,
including
right,
academy players.
right.
Bro, we played so many Cat One academies in that age group last year. Fulham, Wolves, Brighton, so many. He batted up. And
Every
I put
game.
him on trial at a massive Cat One club.
Yeah.
Two.
Yeah.
I don't want to say their names, but
Yeah.
two massive like showcase development games.
Mm.
Bro, he smashed every training session I went to. He smashed every game. The feedback is like, yeah, he's doing all right. He's gone to Reading now. Just
Good-
before he
good Cat
signed.
One club as well.
Yeah. Big Cat One club now. Like last season, they wasn't doing good that age group, yeah? All them clubs, they're shouting me now. They're like, oh, can we get him in now? I'm like, no. And the feedback is now he's signed at Reading. They liked him so much. Reading don't do this. They like them both so much, yeah? They put them in a full-time school,
Right,
in a
wow.
full-time house. They don't do
Wow.
that for players.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they put them in
Yeah.
a full-time school. They've had to do so much paperwork for them
try
because
and get it
yeah,
sorted.
because
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
Swedish nationality and
Yeah.
everything.
Right,
They don't. They pushed it so much, and now they're playing up
Right,
under
as well.
16s.
Wow.
And on top of that, I've got so many scouts from big clubs up north, like the mass club. They're writing reports on them. They're tracking them.
Yeah.
So why are you not missing out on the
I
twins?
don't understand. You know what I think it is as well? It's about being brave. I think some scouts maybe
Some
they're not
scouts are
brave
followers.
enough.
Some scouts scout with it is.
Yeah.
No, honestly.
Yeah.
No, that-
They'll
Yeah,
scout what
They
it is.
hear someone else has gone, someone else has gone for them, or they go so rather than being brave enough to put your neck on the line and go, look, these kids ain't got no CV, but you know what? I'm seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
You guys,
gotta have
we've
the
got to
guns
get
and
them in a
back it.
football club.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's why I ended up doing a lot of what I do or setting up the academy that I have, because I've noticed a lot of the time there's players out there that people aren't brave enough to go, right, do you know what? I've seen this kid, regardless of what anyone else is saying, we've got to do something with him. And I said, I think with Jaden, you know, I sent him on 5-6 trials, you know. We went Cardiff, he was brilliant there. They didn't take him. And it was only where I had to think smart.
So one thing I would say to all parents and players listening to this, he sent Jaden to 5 academy trials. He didn't get in, and now he's a Premier League footballer.
Yeah.
So don't give up.
Please,
It's not always black and white why you're not getting signed. There might be this.
Definitely.
He might be getting it
There
wrong.
might be so many dynamics.
So many
why it don't
dynamics to
happen.
why, yeah, 'cause
And I'm
five
glad you
academy-
said that
yeah.
because you know what? A lot of parents, it's one of the biggest challenges now. If their kid don't get in at one club or their kid gets released, all of a sudden it's like the whole world's about to end.
Yeah.
And it's like, mate, this happens.
And the
this
kid
is
starts
football.
doubting him. This part of the
Yeah,
game.
you know what?
You've
You
got to be
have to be able
resilient.
to take the punches.
Yeah.
And if he's actually good enough and he's mentally strong enough, he'll get another chance somewhere, right?
100%.
Especially if you're working with the right people. But so many parents, like, you know, it doesn't work out or they don't get picked for 1 game or 2 games. And all of a sudden it's
the end of the
like,
world. Yeah,
oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh, like, you know, and it's like, no, you have to keep going. And full play to Jaden and his mum, God bless him as well. Like, they kept the faith. I had to think about Bournemouth because what I realised is, right, he's going places, they're not taking him. But I thought, right, Bournemouth, I think the club had just got to the Premier League, but their category at the time wasn't so strong.
Yeah.
And I knew some of the players there, he naturally would be more better than. And also, where they hadn't really evolved their academy yet, they weren't getting the boys from the top end or the London physical lads. So most of the boys they had from under 16s were more there, where you didn't have the dominant physicality of some of the London boys. So I contacted Bournemouth, a guy, Mr. Roach, who's now retired, and he said, look, we'll get him in. And I think where he's gone there, and technically he was better. It still took 3 times him going back, by the way, before they signed him. One of my friends, Chris Purchase, is now first team coach at Newcastle. He really pushed it. And then they signed him. And then from there, he had an environment to flourish where they weren't so focused on physicality. But now he's taller than me. He's 6'2".
He's big
Do you know
boy,
what I mean?
innit?
But he's still slim, but he's 6'2". So the whole myth of why he was a bit less physical and small back then is gone. And where players got released for him at Arsenal, some of them, like where they stayed, he's now in the Premier League and he's gone ahead.
Yeah.
So, that's a great
fantastic
story, but it's having
That's
that
a great
faith
story.
to keep pushing him
Yeah.
and also finding the right dynamic. I had to find the right club that would give him that chance to grow. And Bournemouth at the time suited him. So a lot of it, people say things like, you hear this cliche where people say, if you're good enough, you keep playing, someone will take you to a degree, but that's not always right. You actually need people sometimes, like you got your ELA platform, like maybe I've got my AG Academy, like good agents that will see a player and be able to know where to put them. It's like having a singer. I always say, how many singers over the years do we know that are amazing singers, but they ain't got a record deal? And you see someone else that can't sing, but they've got a record deal. That person got put in front of the right music managers, the right A&R, and they got the deal. And there's someone still singing in pub at 6:40, and you're going, wow, they can sing. Unless you get the right help, sometimes you don't always get put in front of the right people to get the deals. So the same with footballers. There's more talented footballers than some of the ones that have got a deal, but maybe they weren't put in the right places at the right time.
Shout out Godfrey, man.
That's why I love trying to help
I think
people.
that's your USP.
And I think- yeah.
honestly, like seeing God is how he works. Like he's good at seeing people, placing them like a puzzle because he's done it.
Yeah, I've only seen when he's coaching though.
We'll talk about that another day, man.
Yeah, I know.
Did we beat you though? Did we beat you though?
No, I beat you.
No, we beat you as
The
well,
last
right?
time you played, you beat us. You beat the B
So it's
team.
1-1.
No, you beat the B team.
Well,
And
you
I
kept,
said,
you
and
kept
I
flipping
laughed.
the teams around.
No,
didn't
I didn't. It was the A team first. They won.
all good, it's
then,
all
yeah,
good, it's
but,
all good.
What happened
Interestingly,
when our 15s played?
I think you beat our 15s.
Was it bad?
No, I think it was quite
Sure.
close though. Yeah.
sure?
No, yeah. But our 15s was new, to be fair. It was new.
fair enough, fair
But we beat your 16s.
This year?
No, the year before.
oh, nice.
Yeah. And
I was-
it's all new. It's all new.
It's all new. Yeah, I was gonna just sort of build up on everything you've said and not really tear everything apart, but just touch on something that really happens. You see, a lot of parents would put they don't do it. Clubs would put their child, or maybe it could be two, like the twins as well, for trials. Yeah, some kids are not really good because you already know. Football clubs look at players either via profile or nepotism. You know what I'm saying? And some parents do put their kids through, regardless, even though they know their child is probably not ready. And now there's a thing here where most people are desperate for obviously they're so
massive,
desperate for their child to become footballers.
Yeah.
And I've seen a situation where a kid was on trial with a club. He got released and he was thrusted into another club within 2-3 weeks. Because of course, you have the experience, you've played and you've seen it, you've sent people on trials and stuff. Would you advise for parents to do stuff like that, or give that child a break before just pushing them again or thrusting them?
Oh, if they get released, you mean?
If they get released, so within a week
from
or
a
two,
trial
they
or
just
get released.
They just
It's a tricky one. Like, I think you have to try and see where the child's mindset is. Do they seem like they're ready to go back on trial? The child's form, if they're actually looking like they would go on trial and succeed, because otherwise, why push them when they're not even in the form or mindset to go and perform? I think you have to evaluate it rather than just taking them, and then they go more places and they get more rejection maybe. They've got to be mentally ready for that. And I think one of the biggest things, I think with young players, you have to talk to them and make them aware, look, like you're going into something, it's a very hard thing to achieve, but give it your best. But at the same time, be prepared that you might get no's, right? It's part of it. And if you get a no, that doesn't mean that you're not necessarily good enough at all. We'll just keep working, work on things you can improve on. If another opportunity comes and we think it's right, we'll go for it. it's hard to say, like, because every situation is different with every child at the time in terms of whether you push them again or you decide not to. But I do think there is an ill desperation for young people to go on trials, get signed, which you get it, obviously, to a degree. Obviously, you get in a system, you get good level coaching generally. But I feel like the child has to want to do it as well. Like, it can't be like the parent.
The other side of it, though, is I would agree with everything Godfrey's saying. I would agree with everything he's saying. The mindset of the kids got to be right. But you know what football's like and how quick it moves. So just say I've had a player very recently just got ready from Arsenal, from his trial. I had about 7 clubs ready to get him,
take him in
straight away because it's Arsenal.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
If he held on for like a month and said, I don't want to go to... He went to another massive Cat 1 club right now. But if he didn't do it straight away, that opportunity would have been gone.
100%,
Some of these guys in the game, you know what they're like. They're like, oh, take it now, okay, gone. Or he can just sign another player, or like he'll bring a different player on trial, because they're not going to bring 2 players in on trial at the same position.
So I agree with that. From that perspective, you do have to think about it as well, because you're right. Again, it's small windows of opportunity, right? It moves fast.
Quick, man.
So yeah, when you're coming off the back of being
how many
a big
times
club,
have you had a club? You're an agent, so you're kind of similar position to me with ELA in a different way. But how many times have you had a club say, "Yeah, we're going to bring him in"? Something happens and they can't.
They don't do it. Yeah, it happens a lot.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
get what I mean?
And that's one of the things I always say to parents as well. Like, even when I'm organising the trial, if it is there, I always say, listen, they've said they want to bring you in, but until I get something in writing, it might not even happen because it does change a lot. So I get it as well. Like, if you've come out of somewhere, you almost want to keep that momentum and try and go somewhere else, because you almost have a window where the teams are more interested to have a look.
Yeah.
And if you want to nail it, I mean, it happens with the younger kids, it happens with the older players as well. You know, I've had players that are playing maybe even if it's a semi-pro club and they're doing well, and I might have a lot of interest, and someone might say to me, no, just leave them there, let them learn the game. And I'm going, yeah, but the longer they stay there, the harder it is for them to get a pro deal. And then if you're trying to get them in under 21s and they get a year older, they're not as appealing. So I'd rather get them in now where they're full-time, and then if they don't make it there, maybe they'll fall down somewhere else, but they're still in the game, right? Yeah. So
I feel like
there is
at that age is different, because, like, for example, we got a good under 10 that plays for us, right? I think he can sign out a lot of Cat 3s, but I think this, like, they'll take him in. But I think if he waits to under 13, he can get a Cat 1. Because his development, you know what I'm talking about, right? Because his development, how he's going. But but that incident is completely different, because once he gets past under 21s,
then
he's done.
You've
got to calculate.
You have a smaller window then.
You've got to have good footballing people around you
to know a good pathway. So
once you sign that first Cat 3 club,
if it don't work out, it's very hard to then jump from that to...
not even that. No disrespect to no Cat 3 club, but just say he signs at that Cat 3 club, he's kind of tied in because compensation. You can still buy them, of course, but it just makes life harder.
It's a tricky one also, because I had a parent asking me as well, like, I'd seen him at games, even when I do my son's age, under 11s, to be in, I was just like helping people. So if I see a kid that's very good, and the dad's talking to me or whatever, and I might know the coach, I might say, listen, that kid's good, you know, I think he's good enough to sign somewhere. I've just put people on, you know what I mean? There's one kid who was really good, and I managed to get him a trial at Arsenal, just from seeing the dad at games, right? And then they were not sure about him, and then he had an option to sign at a Category 3 club, because one of his other sons was there, or keep trying to go for an Arsenal or Tottenham or whatever. And to be fair, I just said to him, it all depends on different scenarios, but I just said to him, do you know what, like, if your dynamic suits for you to sign at that Cat 3 club now, do you know what? For him, I think it was right. So I said, if he goes in there and smashes it, them other clubs are going to buy him anyway, right? Yeah. So then it depends. Sometimes it's right to hold off because another club take him. But sometimes, really, you feel like
you feel like you should aim as high as you can, or you should just...
I think aim as high as you can, because obviously maybe the level of coaching and the facilities and all that can help you. And if you fall from there, you can drop somewhere else. Yeah. But then on a flip side, sometimes depending on someone's dynamics, maybe it might be good for them to go and say they are getting regular coaching and full-time and they're playing the games. And if they are actually that good, someone will buy him as well. Do you know what I mean?
because-
So
yeah, that's
so I
true.
think it
That's
just
true.
depends on every situation is different with
I do
each kid
think
of how you
some
do it.
kids do need the grassroots football sort of discipline and just learning the trade and grassroots, because this whole desperation of going to trials and trying, you're gonna get dropped. Some kids are not really that good at that moment, because everyone develops in different
times.
different
Yeah,
times
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
But it's just, and there's no right or wrong answer, to be honest.
Sometimes,
there's
yeah,
no
I
right or
think
wrong
so.
answer.
Sometimes
like
there
Sammy
isn't.
said, yep, it could work out. I think football is a fast-paced game. Yep, you say no
Get 'em
now,
in.
we're moving on. And you did say on the other side, oh, you know what? Maybe assess the person's mentality, the kid's mentality and stuff.
See whether they're ready for it,
exactly.
yeah.
So for you now, in the position you're in, what would be your, I won't say greatest advice, but what would be your amazing, like your number one? You know, when you pull out a card you're trying to give to someone, what would be the advice you would give to a kid that really and truly believes he's good enough to play in an academy, but he keeps getting passed?
Good question.
Ooh,
You've seen it.
yeah, I think my number one thing would be if they are good enough and they keep getting bypassed, they've just, I guess it's easy to say, but you just got to keep going, keep learning, keep grafting. I always find if you keep doing the right things, and obviously maybe if you do get the right help as well, eventually you will get the right club.
Consistency.
And actually, one of the key things I always say to all players that I work with that are ones that I'm trying to get a deal for, a key thing I always say, keep doing the right things, because eventually the right club will meet you. Do you know what I mean? So if you keep doing the right stuff and you keep grafting, you go on one trial, they say no, or one club don't look at you. If you keep doing it and you're good enough, eventually the right club that suits you will go, we want him. Do you know what I mean? And that's happened with players that I've worked with over and over and over. Yes, they need a bit of help. Yes, they need a bit of guidance. Yes, they need sometimes getting the clubs interested in them that maybe might not normally be aware of them. But as long as they've kept on the right path, where other players that maybe don't have a strong enough mentality, or players that I've helped over the years that after a few instances of things not working out, they fall off, can't be consistent, they're the ones that end up not getting there. They might actually even be more talented than the ones that did get there. But if you can't keep that consistency, keep working, keep grafting, keep doing the extras. If you get told a no, all right, let's go again. Where do we keep going? How do we... you'll end up being someone that when the right club's about to meet you, you've already dropped off. Do you know what I mean? And that I think that's one of the key things I would say, definitely, because I've seen it happen with big talents that just didn't listen and didn't stay on the right path and keep doing the right stuff.
That's
And they end
leading
up
me
getting
to
there.
my other question I was going to ask generally. So have you managed, I will use the word managed, have you managed like a client or a player that you feel like, oh man, this kid is good enough, but I don't think he's going to be a footballer? You know,
It's happened a few times.
It's happened a few times.
Yeah. I mean, so there's players, obviously, because I've got the academy that I work with players at a younger age. So some players at younger age, I've seen that you're going, wow, how good is he? Like, amazing. But maybe whether it's mentality, whether it's they're still dabbling in things off the pitch that they shouldn't, whether it's parents. Listen, sometimes not just a player, sometimes it's parents that you're looking at and going, this one's going to be difficult. I don't know whether they're going to make it, because the way that the parent is, whether it's the dad maybe being overbearing, whether the dad's erratic and making too many quick-fire decisions, maybe the dad causes
seen
problems
that
at the
too
club.
many times.
Maybe the dad
an
causes
interesting-
problems at the club.
That's an interesting point you say, Godisman, because some parents that are so involved in their kid's life think they're doing something good for their kid.
They're often
But
damaging
sometimes they're doing the complete opposite. Some
They're
parents
hindering-
don't
they're
even want to
hindering the
take that
chances,
player
yeah.
because
I'll
their
tell you what,
parents
that's
are the
one of
fault.
that's
It
another
comes
one of
down-
the big problems.
It comes down to like high maintenance, low output.
Yeah.
You get me? So if the parents is high maintenance and the player's medium output, you're questioning it. But if the player's kind of lowish output and the parent's high maintenance, but you're not going to want them.
Listen, that is another one of the big problems. Like I've found is definitely if you get a good player, good attitude, work hard, loyal, parents, respectful, allow you to do your job. Listen, you got a dream.
Oh,
Because
that's
that
perfect.
match don't happen often. A lot of the time, and the parents, you don't realise, a lot of them are messing it up.
They think they're doing
they're
something
messing
good,
it up.
but they're actually hindering their
messing it
child.
up,
There's
like,
boys that we haven't brought on trial when I was working at clubs because the parents are annoying.
Yeah,
I'm not even joking.
And I
But
often
that's
say
something
to
we
them,
need to say louder.
Yeah,
we
I'll
need to
often
really
say
go
to
loud
the
about
parents,
it.
I'll say to them, listen, this is how clubs talk, right?
They do.
If you're not like your parent, they'll be talking to you, oh, do you know that mum? Like, you know, oh, mate,
high
don't touch there.
maintenance. And
I
they
even
talk.
have clubs tell me, if I'm trying to represent a player sometimes, oh, like, beware of the mum, though. Of you, do you know the mum? Or that dad, though? Do you know what I mean? So you're trying to make them understand sometimes, like, yeah, of course, you've got to be involved, but I think that you've got to be cute with where you do it and how you engage around the clubs, how you are with the coaches. If you've got an agent, how involved are you? So, all right, some parents, I get it, like they want to get involved to a degree, but you've still got to have like clear structures of how the work goes. And I find often, especially with the young players that are trying to push through, some of the parents definitely mess it up a lot.
100%, man.
I've seen that. I've seen that.
By making like, you know, overbearing, or when they go into meetings, they're like speaking to like, why would it's not just about your kid being good. Why would a club want to work with someone?
Yeah, you're working with humans.
That like you're thinking,
You're
I
working
don't
with
even want to
humans.
meet that person. Why would you want to do it? And what parents have got to realise, some parents get too entitled about their own kid, thinking he's really good. There's always another kid. There's for a club.
They
There's
do
always
that too
another
much.
kid, mate.
They do that too much.
They always let you
For
go.
you,
There's
that's
always
your
been-
kid,
yeah.
and you love him, of course. But for a
there's-
scout, there's 50 other players.
There's always another kid. There's
Like
always
I said,
someone else.
I've
You
had
know what
that
I mean?
situation so many times. I've seen it from afar. I've seen it near, and I feel like
This is not us
I
trying
don't
to slate
blame-
parents, by the way. It's
No.
us trying to just give them advice.
Yeah,
I
no,
just,
no,
for
definitely.
me
You know what I mean?
personally, what I really want us to even touch on is not really touch on, but this is my opinion about it. I feel like this era, parents they've got inflated ego, and the only way you can have an inflated ego is if someone, it's just like a balloon. Someone has to blow, has to
pumping
pump
it
it.
up.
And I feel like when a child is really good and everyone is like, oh, this child is really good, that sort of gives them this weird and misconstrued conception of, oh, my child is so good, so you can't tell me what to do. That's if a Sammy or if a Godfrey goes, oh, I think you should take a week off, just an advice you're giving them. They could just be like, no, whatever, man. You know, one of the
ego's
Arsenal
mad.
scouts
Yeah.
told me my son. And that's the thing we're dealing with in this era.
Can I just
In
touch
this
on that?
era,
Can I just,
yeah.
in terms of ego of parents, I'll give you a funny example. So one of the clubs I was scouting at, there was a player. He was in the pre-academy of this club that I was scouting at. He didn't get signed. They didn't take him. Then after it's like 6 years later now, I'm like, yo, he's hot property. You want to get him in? A couple of clubs wanted him. He's like, no, but they didn't want us at pre-academy. Like they've hold that grudge.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
bro,
yeah.
they've hold that grudge for like 6 years at
And
pre-academy.
that's silly.
We didn't want them at the time. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And it's you holding that grudge against that club.
It's not the kid
And
as well.
it's
You're
not
missing out the
kid.
kid's
You're missing out
opportunity.
the kids. And the thing is, it's silly because at pre-academy to where he was coming in at under 15 is completely different
it is.
staff.
Of course it
It's
is.
not even the same people.
Yeah,
no more.
that are even judging
And
him.
not
Yeah,
even
yeah.
judging him. And if it was the same people stayed at that club, some people move within clubs. I've been at 5 different professional clubs.
And fair play
I could not
as
want you
well.
5 years ago, but I'll be at a different club.
But also fair play to a club if they've maybe seen someone and realised they said no and going, do you know what, actually we've seen him late. We actually like him.
Yeah.
At least they're actually saying, do you know what, we want to look at him again. Like we're
Yeah, yeah,
interested.
yeah,
Because some clubs might be a bit like, oh no, we didn't take him. I'm not trying to bring him back in.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be open-minded as a
It's
parent.
got to be
to
open-minded. You
think.
can't
Inflated
let
egos
ego
can be
you can't
blinded.
let- you can't let
No,
ego
you can be
affect the
blinded.
development of your
Oh
of your
yeah,
child.
absolutely, and it's a shame because, like I said, it's because it's a business now. You know, back in the day, I believe people started playing football for just a hobby, but now people have seen that, oh, we can do this, you can achieve this, you can become this, you can become that.
Yeah.
So once your child is really good and you've been hyped and you've been told everything in the world is the next Neymar or whatever, then you start to talk to other people that are actively trying to help your kid. You start to talk to them like they're beneath you.
Yeah.
And which, again, can hamper a child's development.
100%,
Because if
yeah.
that child grows up with that mentality, he's surely not going to be a footballer. He'll be a football player, but not a footballer.
Or they won't play at the levels that
Of course,
they
they
could.
could.
Because
Absolutely.
there's some players that, listen, they still make it as pros, but if you had a better attitude, would you maybe play higher? Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
Whereas, some players, they still have a career, but they may not achieve the levels that they could really get to if they had those other things right. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, the parent thing, definitely, it's something that, listen, obviously there's great parents that do great stuff,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
on the flip side,
There's some
a lot of them
fantastic
are
parents,
hindering.
man, that are there at every
yeah.
session,
Great,
staying,
Yeah, and they're doing the right
and they
stuff,
bite their
and-
tongue when their son might be minutes for the best of their son.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the parents that
Great parents,
actually holding the bullet, biting the bullet for the better of their son. Some people, they're so egotistic in that sense that they're so angry that they take it out, but they don't understand that's hindering,
It's hindering
your
the kids'
son.
development. and
So
opportunity.
much of
Don't
so
do
much
that.
of
And
conduct.
clubs will,
Yeah.
if you're doing that, they will make decisions sometimes based on what they do with your kid, based on what you're doing. Do you know what I
100%.
mean?
I've been in meetings. I've been in
Yeah,
meetings with clubs. Like, should we keep him? Should we not? My mum's annoying, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. I'm not talking about ELA meetings. I'm talking about professional clubs, bro.
Let's drop him out of this game and see how they deal with
Yeah,
it. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
they'll
Or like,
test you,
no,
man.
the
They'll keep
mum's like,
testing
no,
you,
the
yeah.
dad,
They'll
they're
keep
not
testing
coming over, telling us like, do you know, actually, let him sit him there for a bit. Actually,
Yeah.
demote him for a bit, and you don't realise you're affecting the outcomes.
Yeah,
you
you
know?
got to remember,
So-
like, these academy coaches and guys that have full-time roles in football, they got a bit of ego themselves, you know.
Yeah,
Oh,
of course,
absolutely.
You get what I mean? So
Yeah,
they're not
yeah,
enjoying, like,
yeah,
having someone
they'll
tell them
be
what
like,
to
to
do.
sit
I'm
into
here
the
for a
corner there,
reason,
mate.
so
Yeah,
you can't tell me
so-
what to do. You know what I'm
so
saying?
definitely for parents, I
And
think
that's
they have to
interesting.
be thinking
Interesting
about that.
enough as well. You do coach as well yourself. I've seen you on the sidelines.
Yeah.
In general, what is the one thing you would advise give as an opinion? I hate the word advice because no one in the world is an expert, but it's just in your humble opinion. I would say, what would be that one thing you could tell a young kid and parent looking to jump to the next level? It could be academy, could be I don't know, changing clubs, whatever the case is. What would be the one thing they should hold dear to themselves that you feel could help them when they move to the next stage?
Oh dear. I think again, it's the same principles of consistency, working hard, you know, being good team people. If your parents, you know, listen, I always commend, even I do my son's team and I always commend parents. I say, kids, respect your parents and appreciate them for even bringing you to games. There's a lot of kids these days that are having to travel places and they don't get help from their parents. So I think getting the kids to appreciate the parents also, you know, trying your best to
Just
support.
touching on that point, we actually had Carlton here, obviously your friend here the other day. He was like, I had to go to all the trainings myself. Yeah. And obviously kids are not doing that nowadays. Do you feel like the boys now have changed? They're
Yeah, I
lacking that
definitely think that.
because they're getting more
Yeah,
things done for them.
And it becomes a problem definitely when some kids get older, because when they're having to fight for things a bit, they're used to getting taken places, pampered a bit too much.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I say from young ages, if you have got a parent doing that, I don't think a parent should just not do it if they can, but you want to get the kids appreciating it. Do you know what I mean? And realising, actually, I've got to appreciate the fact that I am able to get lifts here, because there are other kids that are travelling across London and they ain't got no money, or they're getting... So you want to, what you want to do is...
train.
you want
Life was
to
hard.
get kids to appreciate...
It was hard, man.
Appreciate, you know, the fact that they've got parents that are doing it. So I think, I mean, and another things, one of the other key things I do think for a lot of young players, because now we're in an era of, which are something I want to touch on, the one-on-ones, which are brilliant, and the technical training, which is brilliant. But I think one of the big problems I do find is a lot of the players, they're not prepared to do... Everyone wants to do things that are good on the ball. Like, and I find watching it, a lot of these young games, you've got, obviously, now England as a country has evolved massively in terms of technical ability, which is great, right? That's why you're seeing so many good young players doing brilliant. But I do find some of the basic skills of things that you do without, because a lot of time you haven't got the ball in a game, right? And I find we're watching a lot of these games and people only want to do things when they get the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say to teach...
On average, a player touches the ball about 2-3 minutes.
in a game.
So that's 87, 88 minutes you're not touching the ball.
So-
So what are you doing?
Yeah, so
That's what makes a professional
one of the
footballer.
biggest things that I see from watching these young games and a lot of the ear of the kids now, I try and develop, I think parents tell their kids as well, and kids to listen into, is do all the individual coaching to improve your technique and those sort of things. But one of the big things as you get older that managers and coaches are looking for, one of my main skills is, I think, trying to tell people things that will help them get picked in teams. Because I speak to managers all the time. That's my job, right? I'm speaking to managers. I know what things managers want that will get players picked. So I'm often telling these young people, how about, do you mark your player? If your player runs off your shoulder, are you going to track him back?
Yeah.
if you're running forward to score a goal, you know you can run back the same speed as well to get back and help out your teammate. Do you communicate? Communication's for free. It's got nothing to do with talent, right? If you've got two players the same level, one talks and one doesn't, the one that talks is the better player, right? So can you communicate on your pitch? Are you a good team player? If your teammate's out of position, will you cover them? That's how you win games of football. So the communication can save you someone scoring a goal because you've told someone, push in there or come in here, or you tracking back in the last 5 minutes of a game when someone's run off your shoulder and you track back and you block across, that can help you win a game of football. So all of these things are things that aren't necessarily to do with talent, they're to do with your mindset.
Yeah.
Or will you make that extra run in the box a couple of times and you might make it 5 times, but at one time it drops to you and you get a shot on goal and you score. A lot of players don't want to do those things. They just want to do things that look good on the ball and look good.
Get
So one of the
highlights.
biggest things I'm trying to tell them, to win, managers are in it to win games of football. So when it comes down to as you get older, they're looking for players
That are gonna win them
would
the
do, that would do the right things.
win
Not
the
necessarily the most talented players, but the ones that are prepared to do things that help them win games of football. And I think that stuff is getting lost a little bit. It's getting too much focus on technical, when you're getting players that are
they see it
technically
on social
good.
media and all this
Yeah.
stuff. It's funny enough, I'm sorry I lost my train of thought earlier. I was actually going to touch on that. I was going to say, what do you think about the people that do one-to-ones? Because that was going to come off on the back of the question of players going to an academy, then he gets dropped, then he goes back again. I know parents are paying
Massive money.
just for...
Which is scary. I believe in one-to-ones because you can
If they're
develop
working
a
on their
lot.
weaknesses.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
everyone's
but
got a
not just
weakness.
doing anything for
Yeah.
any reason. You got to work on things that are helping to improve. And I think some of the one-to-ones as well, you almost need 2 players in it as well. Because I think sometimes you're doing a one-to-one, but you need to do situations that are going to come up in a game where they're getting tested. So it's like waiting over it with one player, but you might need to pass fizz them a ball and then they got to drop a shoulder or turn, but against opposition. If you're doing it against the cone all the time, you get all
Cone
right,
don't
at it,
tackle.
but it don't really.
I always
So
say
I
to the
think
boys,
some of
Cone
it,
doesn't tackle.
some
I'm never
of
a
it,
fan
some
of
of it, I think is too false. But I believe in them to like a massive degree. But at the same time, I also do feel for parents that as well that believe that like they're losing pace. If my kid's not doing them 4 times a week, oh my gosh, like that other kid. I mean, when you look at the best players in the world of today, all right, one-on-ones weren't big back then, but their parents didn't have money, right? From what we heard, you know, they've become the best in the world, but they weren't. I'm sure there's other parents that are paying loads of money back then to get their kids there.
100%.
But I don't know, Lionel Messi's story, I didn't hear that his parents come from money. Cristiano Ronaldo's story, I didn't hear that his parents come from money and they were paying all the money,
Exactly.
but they still become the best in the world, right?
That's
So I
a
think for some of the
question.
parents out there that are feeling the pressure and they can't pay for it and they can't afford it, don't like feel like just because you can't do it, that means your kid's not going to get there, because the best players that have been the best for the last 15 years, they didn't have money. Do you know what I mean? So yes, if you can pay for bits and get a bit of more personal development to work on little things, great. But that doesn't necessarily determine whether your kid is going to be better than the other one or not. Because as I said, there's players that are best in the world now and their kids' parents couldn't afford for their kids to be doing it.
But
right?
interestingly, that's something you've said, which I believe as well. A few years ago, football was at its amazing peak, and we never heard of one-to-ones, putting cones, doing this, taking pictures or videos and posting up online and all that stuff. And I feel like in this era where we have loads of that, everyone is a one-to-one coach. Everyone wants to do ball mastering with the cone, with this, with that. Football's dipped a bit. So I think
the imagination a little bit is because obviously back in our day we were just paying whether it is on concrete or doing whatever and trying
Absolutely.
things and or seeing someone do something in a game at an actual match on
Incorporate
TV and going, right, let me try that. Where now a lot of it is obviously it's trained, like do this, do that. Again, some of it is very good, I do think, but I just find that nowadays the some of the basic elements that you want players to be good at, that when it boils down to it, that's what's going to get you over the line. Like, we're losing it. It is too much based on...
And do you know the thing is that I think players only see that side of things when they start coaching and managing.
Yeah.
Only when I started managing and becoming a coach, I understood how important it was to track back, mark your man, have a good attitude. But when you're playing, that's not glorified amongst the other kids. So you don't understand how important it is until you become a manager yourself. You're like, I need to play that listens to me. I need to play that tracks back. I need to play that's gonna make me win this game. I already care about winning
No,
this game.
definitely, and that's why because of my job, what I do. That's why when I speak to parents and young kids now, that's why I'm telling them that now.
Yes,
because the earlier
so
you
good
get that
players
into
now,
your head,
so young players, listen to your coaches.
yeah,
Because-
the earlier you get that
Yeah.
into your head, those sort of basics, those elements, as long as you've got a good base on your technique and understanding, when it comes down to it, the managers are going to pick you over players that might be more talented, but they're not
100%.
listening. And they're not doing those things. Because in the, end of the day, you don't win a game with players that don't listen or don't want to track
You could
back.
have a player, especially for the guys that have dropped into non-league. There's probably players that you're way better than, but he's playing over you, and you're thinking, why is this dead guy playing over me? It happened to me. It happened to loads of my friends at the time when I was playing non-league, and I was like, why is this happening to me? I'm better than this guy, but because this guy would help the manager win the game more than me.
Yeah, yeah.
Even
And
though
you
I'm
might
better
not
than him.
see it, but you might be more
And it's-
naturally better than him.
Yes.
But they'll do things that will help the manager win
Slow
the
down
game
the
of
game.
football.
Slow the game down. Listen to the coach.
Maybe
Like
at the right
like
time,
IQs.
when, like say, you might need to slow down a game. They're not going to play that difficult pass and lose it.
Yeah.
Or as a defender, yes, you can play the right passes, like sometimes tight passes, but then when the game's tight, are you still going to play that pass when you might lose the ball? And our manager will rather you actually got an IQ and you might have to play a pass in behind
Play it
and
in
turn.
behind, yeah.
So
Letting
you're
the ball
trying to
go
teach,
out and
you're trying to teach a lot of these boys those other elements. Again, like I said, a lot of it is things that you don't naturally want to do. People just want to get on the ball, but a lot of the other things, because you haven't got the ball, are things that are going to help you win the game. Do you know what I mean? And I'm trying to teach people a lot of those things because, again, I know what the managers are looking for, and if you're doing them things, you've got a chance of having a football career. Do you know what I mean? Because what it is, you're trying to get a job at the end of the day when you get older. So when you're young, like talent ID, under 9s, under 10s, you scout players based on what most of it they're doing on the ball, right?
Yeah, it's true.
But as you
It's
get
true.
older, you're not looking just at that. You're looking at
At
what,
that age, you're looking at individuality.
yeah,
What
you're
can
looking
you
at
do? Yeah,
individuality. How do they
As you
move
get-
with it?
yeah, that's
all
just
those
true.
things,
I would agree
right?
with that.
But as you get older, you're not necessarily just looking at that. Of course, it looks nice, but for me,
You're
as you
looking
get
at a more
older,
of a
I'm
holistic
rather
approach,
looking
yeah.
at. I don't care for me. If you've got two players, one of them looks nice on the ball, but one of them looks awkward on the ball, but the other one's more effective.
Yeah.
I'm taking one that's more effective.
To
Do
win
you know
the
what I'm
game.
saying? To win the games.
Yeah.
And it does all the right things. So as you get older,
But you get a lot of these
It's
pretty
other
players.
things.
They look technical. They look nice. They look neat. But like, you're not even beating your man, bro.
yeah, are you beating your man?
You know
or
what I mean?
are you doing other things though? Or
Yeah.
just because you ain't got the ball, you're just letting your man run off. You know what I'm saying?
There's
So
always that one player we know that's left-footed. He's so technical. He looks good. So he's the
But he
left-footed
don't
that
wanna
look
do
nice.
the other things,
But he
innit?
can't do that.
You don't wanna do
He
the
just
other
looks pretty
things.
when he
Yeah,
passes the
yeah.
ball.
And
It's always the left-footers that do that.
exactly. I think it's I think that's why I say to the boys when I coach, I said most things you do is just a reflection of how your life is outside this and how the society is. Everything is being done for you. You've been told. So you believe that others have to carry stuff for you. That's what it is. So when you see a technical player doesn't want to run back and you're having to scream your head off, and you're like, this guy's got a bag of talent, but it's just, you can tell everything is done for them. So I would say we're almost rounding up anyway. But
I think we got a bit. It's fine.
okay, cool. If we have, then cool. But if we don't, then cool. I was just gonna ask, seeing as again, your talent ID agent, I would like to say, obviously you own a company, you're a coach as well. You played in the past. Was that in the 90s, right? You played. Or in
So
in
yeah,
2000s?
90s, 92, 91, when I was at Chelsea, 93 sort of a period, yeah.
Cool. So just wanted to have a context to that. So of course you can see the difference between then and now.
Yeah.
Right. So what would be the one thing you would bring from then into now in terms of your coaching the kids?
Or helping kids. I think some of the things that I was just talking about, I think back then, you know, you were more like things like 50-50s now. I see kids jumping over the ball in a 50-50. Like, come on, be brave.
I hope you're listening.
Be brave. It's not just about being good on the ball. Like in games of football, you lose games by not doing those 50-50s, right?
That's true.
Or like heading the ball sometimes. Now, because it's all technical in the feet, people don't want to head. I see wingers. What about the far post header? You get in a box far post. I say to wingers, you know, if you get in a box far post a number of times in a game, it might be that one time you get a goal. At the end of the season, you might add 3 goals to your tally because you got in the far post and you wanted to head it. And that helps you be a better player. When clubs are looking at players that they want to buy, you've got them 3 extra goals. So it's doing things like that maybe people don't really want to do. A lot of people don't want to head the ball initially,
It's
but when you
cotton
get
wool.
into
It's a
it,
cotton wool era,
you don't mind it. But a lot of people don't want to do it. Again, the tackles is something that people don't really want to do. But if you're good at winning a tackle and you're a tricky winger, well, a manager's going to want you more
100%.
than a winger that just does tricks but will jump out of a 50-50. So it's getting a bit more still mentality in these players, be a bit more bravery on and off the ball, bravery to make a run that hurts. Everyone now wants to come to the ball.
Yeah.
They don't want to make the run in behind. Like Bellingham, how many goals has he got? Because he makes that run into the box, right? He's got so many goals last season for Real Madrid. Even in England in the Euros, he got that first goal because he's making that run that hurts to get in the box and score. A lot of midfielders now, they just want to come and get the ball to feet and get it and turn. But what about making a run and not getting it? And then going back and then having to do it again and then doing it again. But if you keep doing it, one of the times you get in, you get a goal. So it's like you're trying to help players learn the things that hurt, the things that maybe take a bit more risk or that take a bit more of yourself to give yourself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help that next generation have those values where I feel like we're in a generation now where it's more about, I just want to be good on the ball. I just want to look good on the ball. But
Yeah, I think that's just down to what the football is like in this generation now, which is squares, circles, triangles, stars, prisms, on all these shapes. And do you think that's really helping the youth, like the academy style? You know the style of.
I think
football
it
now,
is. It is. But again, I think you've got to try and not lose the other values. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of good things that are coming from it. I think even now, like if I look at what we used to do as kids, the demands on a player now are a lot higher in terms of what you get a player to do, which is great, right? Back in the day, you was more get the ball at your feet. Can you play? But now you're asking defenders, can you even do it on your left foot? Even what you're asking from goalkeepers, we didn't ask for it. So I do think that football's evolved a lot and a lot of it is great. But at the same time, I feel that we've lost a lot of values of players having a bit of bravery and wanting to do things off the ball. And I think that's gone massively missing.
Well, do you feel like the wingers are going at their man nowadays?
Not as much. It's actually, I say that. Sometimes you get ones that are either doing it too much because they ain't got a football brain, and you've got ones that are maybe playing to systems too much and not getting at their man and passing it and moving it and passing it. But I always find there's a balance to both. Like, you've got to have a football brain. There's times to get at your player. There's times to pop it and move and play in the system.
So, well, to be fair, they're asking us to wrap up. So
No worries.
These things happen. It's always
When
an
you enjoy
interesting
talking.
conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? When you're talking and you just
Just
lose track of
before we
time.
do, man, just talk about like your agency. How's it going? Like big
It's
up,
going
big
really
up
well.
AGM.
So yeah,
Any good
AGM
young
Sports,
players listening to this, man? He's the man.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean we're growing. We're growing a strong team.
Yeah.
I've got good people working with
But
me.
what players you got now?
There's a number of players. I mean, obviously you got Jaden Anthony, who's doing really well. Premier League. Azim Abdullahi at Swansea,
How's
very
he doing?
talented player,
Do you
very
remember
very
him?
good player.
Is he
He's
centre back?
Good
centre
player.
midfielder, but
Centre
he's been
midfielder.
playing centre back. So he's, to be fair, he's quite versatile.
Yeah.
But his best position is number 8. I expect big things from him. He's got talent. His young boys that I've had for years, like Frank Vincent. I mean,
you've
I
had- you
still
still got him,
yeah?
still Frank. You know, he's a very talented player. He's at Dagenham now, but he could go up through the leagues as well. I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of players. It's hard for me to mention only a few because there's so many that are good young players that over the next 2-3 years I expect to do really
stuff.
good
Yeah,
things. So yeah, shout out to all of them. I couldn't probably name all of them in one
Yeah,
go,
I've-
but
I've-
Shout out
of
you,
course.
lot, man. Don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah.
Guys,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much.
No,
Godfrey.
thank you for having me. And
No,
listen,
thank you for
brilliant
your time.
platform, brilliant academy. Like you've done
Thank you.
amazing
Thank you,
in the
thank
years
you.
to achieve what you've achieved with great teams. And again, it's giving boys opportunities to play and giving them platforms that they wouldn't normally have, right? That is a beautiful thing. And that's why I love, there's great academies out there what weren't there before. And yours is one of them. And I love seeing that, and I've got an academy, but it's all local. It's all sometimes competition, but good competition in a positive way.
for sure.
We're all trying to do the right thing,
thing. Still
and,
trying to do
help,
the right
and,
thing.
and
We're
do it
trying to
respectfully
yeah.
Absolutely.
and try and help players. And I love that, I mean, I love that element of it. And I love people that are trying to do things and do well for themselves, but help people at the same time. So
Yeah.
well done for this.
No
and
worries. Thank you.
Well
We
done
appreciate
for
Thank
doing
guys.
what you
Thanks
do.
for watching. Go check out Godfrey's academy if you would like to. Your socials, whatever.
And my sports agency.
Yeah, and the sports. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And I think I'll contact you to get your
We'll
link
tag that
for
all
your
in there.
tag, and I'll
Yeah,
just
yeah,
put you
yeah.
on it and
Brilliant.
in the show notes. Thank you guys for watching another episode. We'll see you guys soon again. Peace.
Peace out, man.
Nice one, guys. Respect, man. Really good. Really
Thank you,
good.
man.
Really good. Really good.
Enjoy that, yeah?
Yeah, nah, it was good. It was good fun.